The Radio Misfits Podcast Network.
Hello and welcome to Planted with Sara Pion. I'm Sara Pion, your host, and today we have Libby Cooper, president and co-founder of Space Coyote, joining us today. Libby is, like I said, the president and co-founder of Space Coyote. She's an artist and established contributor advocate in the cannabis industry, and in just 2 years, she's led the company to be a top 20 pre-roll brand in California. Welcome, Libby. I'm so excited to have you here. You've been in the industry for a bit. I noticed that you've had some really great projects that you brought to success, and I'm just really excited about talking with you today.
Thanks. Yeah, it's great to be here.
So I always like to start out with my guests on talking about the first cannabis experience. When was the first time you tried cannabis, and what was your impression?
The first time I smoked weed was a classic story. I think it's a story that many people share. I was really young. I was a freshman in high school, so I was 14, which I definitely don't condone underage consumption, but I know a lot of us did it.
Oh, a lot of us are pretty precocious.
Yes. Yep. And it was in the back of an older guy's car, and I think it was actually my friend that's staying with me right now. It was her group of friends, and it was just so much fun, but also incredibly scary to be handed, I think it was a pipe. I didn't know how to light a lighter. Someone else had to light that lighter for me, and I was shaking. It was this intense juxtaposition of my heartbeat racing because I thought something really awful would happen, but then equally my heartbeat racing because I was so excited and it was so cool, right? It was just this incredibly mysterious thing. I don't even remember if I got stoned or not. I think it's sort of irrelevant to the story, but it was more about, that was my first time smoking weed, and so many of my weed smoking experiences were in the back of someone's car and just being driven around, and that sort of suburban, mundane teenagehood that so many of us experienced. And it really did help my stomach, though. I had terrible stomach pains and was very, very small. I'm still pretty small, but I was very tiny, to the point where growing up, I was given all sorts of weight gain formulas and seeing different doctors, and my parents were very concerned for most of my young life, and weed helped. And it turned out later on I was diagnosed with celiac disease, so the dots started to connect, and I went, oh yeah, this is why it's a plant medicine. And it took a while for me to actually come out publicly about my weed consumption, even to my parents, because it was just so stigmatized. And now I'm talking about taking psychedelics publicly. So it seems like that was a long time ago to be nervous about talking about smoking weed. But yeah, a fair amount of people are still sort of shy about it. And it's our job to just keep talking about it and hopefully change that.
Yeah, well, I always say conversation is normalization, right? The more we have conversations about it, the more people feel free to experiment. Because I know when I first started working in cannabis, it was something that I didn't necessarily share with everybody because we were still getting trained on what to do if we got raided, right? And so the same people who were kind of like Sarah's lost her mind, she left the office and went into cannabis, now are like, hey, can you talk to me about this? I'm kind of curious about trying it because of the conversations that people like you are having about it. So it's making it okay for people to be curious.
Yeah.
What got you into the industry and the movement?
I got into the industry because I identified that I really felt burnt out. By my mid-20s, already, and I was working in Silicon Valley, and I'm very much in the startup scene, and I just didn't feel very passionate. I didn't really want to be going into the office, and I thought, wow, this can't be right because I've got the rest of my career ahead of me. So I identified that I was passionate about three things: dogs, gluten-free, which is a celiac disease, and wheat. And I think being sort of inherently capitalistic and being raised, I was born in London, but was raised in the Bay Area. So, I think just being raised in that environment, my mind was very entrepreneurial, and I knew I wasn't going to make any money from dogs, specifically dog rescue. Mm-hmm. So I started fostering puppies, and that was my, fulfillment in that passion area. But yeah, between gluten-free and dogs, gluten-free maybe was going to make a bit more money, but weed just really stood out to me. I thought, oh my goodness, like how incredible would it be to work in something that I've loved for so long and seems so fun and cutting edge. And at that point, it was on the ballot to become rec, but it hadn't been passed yet in California. Okay. And it was really at the end of 2015 that I was identifying this about myself. And by the beginning of 2016, I made the switch. It was actually a lecture that I went to that really was the catalyst. I went to a design in cannabis lecture at Yelp's headquarters. It made such a big impact on me. It was a group of panelists, different designers from different companies that some of them have survived the past 5 years, some of them haven't, as it goes. But I really felt like every panelist was talking directly to me. I sat right in front of the podium, and it was just this massive call to actions. I felt like they were saying, Libby, go get a job in the cannabis industry. And it actually took me 12 hours after that to apply to jobs, and I was off to the races.
Now, I noticed that you did creative work you were creative director at Ease. Was that your first job?
Yeah.
What did you get from that? Like, what was some of the stuff that you took away from that you'll just never forget?
I just learned so much. I had so much exposure to different cannabis brands. It was my first job in the cannabis industry, and I was young. I got that job at 24. And I just went in there guns blazing. I was like, I'm going to do this. I have no idea what I'm doing, but I'm going to, I just convinced them that they needed to hire me, and, quickly climbed the ranks. And I ended up having a really large budget. So I was able to learn a lot about out-of-home advertising. I don't know if you or your listeners remember, there were just, suddenly tons of billboards all over the state of California, and buses plastered with weed ads. And I mean, that was really me and my team. We just put ads everywhere, and we made Ease a really, really big name. And they had already done such fantastic work, and it was really the heyday of Ease. So it was so much fun. And I also got to work on their own private label line of products. So I was building brands. I was building customer centric brands and working with the analytics team to really determine what customer buying behavior was. And all of that shaped my decision to ultimately leave the company to start my own company. I saw the gaps in the market. I saw what customers were demanding, and it became a no-brainer.
So when you saw that, what was your vision for Space Coyote? And actually, can you let our listeners know what the product is too?
Yep. So Space Coyote is a company that's all about exploring the psychedelic side of weed. We really push the limits on potency, but also focus on deliciousness. Flavor should not be fallen by the wayside if you're going for a super potent product, and quality. So we make infused joints. That means that we infuse them with hash, live resin, diamonds, which is THCA, which is THC in acid form. So it's a solid, and it actually looks like crystals. And we are just about to launch flower as well. So high potency flower. It's not going to be infused flower. It's not moon rocks or anything, but we are launching flower as well. And I'm actually on my computer screen. I'm looking at photos of the flower. It's beautiful. But yeah, it's a company about celebrating what it means to be a stoner.
And going to that, what does it mean to be a stoner? Because that's something that when I was looking at your bio, you were talking about that and just like celebrating that. And there are so many different connotations around that. Like in our work, we celebrate that. It's a culture. And then, in greater society, maybe not so much now, but there used to be some stigma around that. So would you unpack that for me a little?
Yeah. So I think that the war on drugs really made it difficult to come back from. But, today, people, as I mentioned earlier, people are talking about taking psychedelics publicly. I think, yes, maybe weed was the gateway drug to conversations about other things, but it certainly wasn't the gateway drug into substance abuse. I really think alcohol is that gateway drug. Alcohol is so dangerous. And, I think being a stoner is just about enjoying life. Everything in life, in my opinion, is about pleasure. Whether it's power or money or sex or even relaxing meditation, like it all comes down to human pleasure. And our lives are so insignificant. We're just specks hurtling through space. And, we're just here to love and to experience as much good things as possible without hurting ourselves and without hurting each other. And I think that celebrating being a stoner is just in that ethos of, life is short and why not enjoy weed and enjoy the company of friends and family and listen to good music, eat good food. There shouldn't be any one area that you have to hide because you enjoy it. And that's really the distinction between us and other companies that maybe have that more medical focus. My co-founder, Scott, also has an autoimmune disease. I have celiac disease, and he has Crohn's. And so both of our origin stories with cannabis are medical, but it's just not really part of the brand story. I mean, it's not really. It's entirely not part of the brand story of Space Coyote, because I think if you take that medicinal approach, it becomes very dry and very, I don't know, soul-sucking. And there's so much kudos to be given to those medical brands that paved the way for a brand like Space Coyote to come onto the scene, which is really going back to sort of this like retro but still futuristic looking perspective of where is this plant going to take us next.
Yeah.
It's a little bit of a tangent, but that's
no, I love it.
Celebration of stoner.
No, I love it. You brought up some really, really interesting points, because there is, that's, I used cannabis for the first time when I was 13, like you. It was with older friends, and it was experimental and dangerous and exciting.
Mm-hmm.
And then, throughout the years, I would, use it from time to time, nowhere near what I do nowadays. But I got back into, like, I was able to see the medicinal side of it when I had cancer, and like you, I have autoimmune, I have Hashimoto's, and it really helps with some of the side effects with that. But there is something to be said for pleasure and euphoria, and it's an interesting thing with our society, because one thing that I've noticed as an educator is that people don't always equate euphoria with happiness and joy and comfort. There's a fear in it, and it really is a statement about our society that we have this stigma about enjoying things too much, or there's always some cautionary tale about somebody getting too high, and it's like, Johnny got too high and this is what happens,
Yeah.
and we need to have more conversations about the fact that, if you take your time with it and you're mindful, you can have a very pleasant experience. And there can be a more holistic approach about, yes, there are properties about cannabis that help with symptom management, but it also is a substance to enjoy and share. And for people who like to geek out on it a little bit more, there's definitely more of you can look at it from a more novelistic standpoint as well. And so I really enjoy seeing, more brands coming out that are joyful in it and creative and aren't necessarily hammering the medicinal aspect, because there's a place for it. But I think
Yeah.
that, it can be very sanitized, and that doesn't
Yeah.
capture the imaginations of people using it.
Yeah. Agreed. Completely agree.
So with your flowers, do you work with smaller farmers, or what's your practice with that?
We use all sorts of, well, I should say we have used all sorts of different ways of sourcing flower. Starting off as a new company, it's challenging to enter this industry, and I'm so grateful that I had my previous experience, because I think those connections really helped us at the beginning, whether it was knowing people who were cultivators, also knowing dispensary owners. So getting those first batches made and also getting into those first shops, it really, really helped. But then, in terms of what we do now, so at the very beginning, we would source 5 to 10 pound batches from small family farms, usually up in Mendocino, Humboldt. So we were doing what's called spot buys. We would, piecing together really small batches, and it's expensive, and you're constantly searching for the next batch of flower, which can be a full-time job, extremely stressful, but also really, really fun, because you're trying so many strains, and you're driving to so many locations, and meeting so many interesting people. Cultivators are the most interesting people in the cannabis space, especially people that live deep in the redwoods. So having such amazing dinners and conversations. Now we're a big company, so we're doing more contract-based buying and growing. So we're actually contracting space in greenhouses where we're selecting the seeds, and we're having our flower grown. It's on such a different scale. We're talking about 600 pounds at a time now versus 5 to 10. And then, as we grow even bigger, my hope is that once we see federal legalization, that we can have cultivation operation here in California and ship to the rest of the country. But we're probably a number of years away from that, but that's my ultimate hope.
What are your thoughts on vertical integration in companies?
I really don't believe in vertical integration, nor does my co-founder Scott. We just think that it's silly. You don't see that in any other industry. For example, I always like to think of, Apple is designed in Cupertino. I think now they say designed in California, probably because everybody is remote.
True.
But it's not made in California. Equally, if products from Johnson & Johnson, any medical devices, they might be designed somewhere in Europe, or they might be designed somewhere in America, but maybe they're produced all over the world. My co-founder Scott, he used to have a medical device company. That's what he did before Space Coyote, and pieces of their product was manufactured in China, but equally pieces of it was manufactured in Spain. But it was designed in San Francisco. So we really believe in experts in every area of the supply chain. We are experts really in brand and logistics. That's our specialty. We've created the product specs that customers really, really love. and we're able to produce that product with, pretty secure NDAs and contracts at various manufacturers. So we have 3 contract manufacturers, and I've already talked about the contract growing. So, I'm not going to pretend like I know how to grow amazing weed. I've grown 6 plants in my backyard, and it was a fucking struggle.
I feel that.
2 of them ended up being this incredible harvest, but 4 of them did not make it. Every area of the supply chain is so important, and we actually heavily rely on our partners, but they also heavily rely on us. If we grow, they grow. It's mutually beneficial. There's an entire ecosystem within the cannabis industry that is beautiful. And so many companies went to vertical integration at first because of the licensing structure that the government set out. The regulations are incredibly complicated, and so many people in the industry also weren't very professional. And it was actually easier to do it all on your own. Yeah. But, times have changed. Things are getting better. And not to say it's because people from outside the cannabis industry are getting in. I actually think that people within the cannabis industry have just learned over time. And there's so much collaboration. Like, why not take advantage of that?
Right. I think with the normalization, people, it isn't as Wild West, so people are a little bit more trusting to collaborate. Mm-hmm. Although, a lot of the wonderful genetics and everything that we've seen are the result of collaborations in the past, because very talented people found each other. But I think you're very onto it when you talk about, identifying your experts, because you can't be good at every single part of the work that you're doing when you're producing a product, right? And I think that that's one of the things that we've been seriously missing. I think it's coming back, but I used to joke that when we got into legalization that I missed good weed.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh my goodness. So you're going to love this. I'm a sativa diva. So it doesn't resonate with everybody, but I really don't like smoking indica strains. And today, now that everything's a hybrid, I've really been bummed out. And I actually don't really buy that much variety because I just don't find weed that I love. Like, I love a really racy, true sativa, landrace sativas. Like, I seek those out. Mm-hmm. And, on this idea of, collaboration, we're actually launching the Space Coyote Sativa Preservation Society in June, which is going to be a really special project, totally a passion project, because true sativas are dying out because the growing cycle and the curing cycle is so much longer for a true sativa versus an indica, that cultivators, just because they had to, and companies had to hybridize these sativas so that they became more of a profit, garnering crop. So we're doing these true sativas. We're launching with some of the 3 original haze strains. We're going to do some red Congo as well, but we have this Cuban black haze that's just absolutely phenomenal, coming down. Wonderful. And yeah, it's so good. And it's the difference between getting high versus getting stoned. Like, I think the sativa divas out there will agree that they like to get high, not stoned. Like, I'm not looking to mellow out.
Right.
It's funny because I'm not, like, I can't even drink caffeine. Like, I can't do uppers, let alone, like, God, don't talk to me about, And I think once in college I tried my friend's Adderall, and it was just a horrible experience. But something about I was going to say the word elevated, but I would roll my eyes at myself because I don't like that word. But I like that. I like the up.
Yeah.
Side of cannabis.
And it's funny because, like, from a dispensary perspective, like, whenever there are some really good true land races in the store, which doesn't happen very often because, like you said, everything's hybridized these days. People grab it because they really do miss that. And I feel like that's such an interesting project. And it's really, there's a definite need for it because people are really missing the really lifting sativas. And I find that a lot of people also like them, not only for like just getting through their day, but I'm creating a new class on athletics and cannabis. And like, I know people who say that Red Congo is like their go-to that they do before they go to the gym.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Yeah,
that's great.
Call it their morning
that's
cup
great.
of coffee. You know?
Yeah.
Well, what are some of your favorite sativas?
Well, I mean, I'm talking about the Red Congo, and I've been seeking it out because it is my favorite. But I also, as cliche as it sounds, I like the original Blue Dream. I think Blue Dream has got a bad rap because it's just morphed into something that it wasn't originally. So I'm doing a bit of hunting to see if we can grow some original Blue Dream because it's got a soft spot in my heart.
Yeah, I hear that. That was actually the first, that and Dark Star were the two first flowers that I bought from a dispensary back in the day. And they were wonderful. I don't even know if they grow Dark Star anymore.
So I haven't seen it in like 5 years, so I don't know.
Yeah. I remember getting it at Vapor Room when they were in the Hague. So I wonder if
Vapor Room's still around.
Yeah. No, Martin reopened, and I'm so happy that he did. And it was really a couple of years ago. I ran into him at an event, and we hadn't officially met yet. And I just went up to him and I thanked him because his dispensary was around when I was going through chemo. It was my first dispensary, and they were a huge source of comfort for me. And I just really, like, I don't think people hear it enough. Like, thank you for being there for me during one of my hardest times. And it was really nice to be able to share that with him because we, there's a lot of enjoyment with cannabis, but it's also such a personal thing, and people really rely on us for, it's an emotional thing too. Like if you see, I work from home these days, but I spent 8 years behind the bar, and just, you're out of something that somebody depends on to, create balance in their lives, and it's like, what? It's not here?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's it becomes just like such a part of your life when you rely on it, especially if you're using it for pleasure, of course, but there's always that, as human beings, we're constantly striving towards homeostasis. So even if we're using something for pleasure, it's still creating that balance. And when we have to go without, it can be, it'll create anxiety because that's what gives us comfort, right?
Yeah.
So as you've been seeing, starting with Ease and then your own company, what are some of the things that you've seen that have changed in cannabis culture? Things that you've liked about it, and we can talk about the stuff that you haven't liked about it as much too. I'm always interested to hear that.
Yeah, I think that generally people talk about how there are so many women in the space and women executives, and it's not something that I have seen. I'm definitely not seeing that. And it's, I just want to call to action for more women to join the industry at that high level, or for women to feel like they can start their own companies.
Yeah.
When I was raising money for Space Coyote for our round that we just closed on in December, January time, so quite recently, we didn't talk to a single female investor, and that's not the cannabis space. That's the the VC space, but that was really disheartening as well.
Yeah. Yeah, there isn't. I've always been surprised when there's been reports out about, oh, the cannabis space has more space for women than other industries because, like you, that isn't something I've seen. I've seen that there are
Yeah,
more women involved than maybe some other industries, leading companies, but there's still not a lot. And,
yeah,
I came from IT back in the day where I worked with all dudes. And so when I got into this space, I was like, oh, it's going to be kind of the same thing. And I really, really wish that there were more women in leadership, owning companies, doing things, especially because when in the 215 days, I really believe that there were actually more women who are active in the cannabis space, creating
yeah,
just like, and the products that, and this might make me sound sexist, but I just feel like a lot of the products are just much more thoughtfully created and curated when you have, a woman at the helm or more women on your team making those decisions, because there's just more thought put into it. And that's not to say that there aren't very thoughtful, creative men out there. There definitely are. But by and large, I've seen a lot more heart in products that have been brought to the market by women.
yeah. Agreed. Yeah, completely agree.
It's not like, let's just throw this up against the wall and see if it sticks.
Yeah,
women don't
yeah,
do that as much.
exactly. Yeah. Well, and also on that subject, Space Coyote is a brand for everybody. I wanted to make sure that it doesn't feel too masculine, though we definitely have more masculine consumers. Yeah, I want to just make sure that, if there's a female-centric stoner, that they reach for Space Coyote because they feel included, and any age and, any demographic that, wants to get super high and have a good time, like Space Coyote's for them. And I think a lot of the brands that are in our direct competition space, they're very much for men.
Yeah.
And it never resonated with me.
Yeah, I've never gotten the whole thing of like I've gotten the impression that some people feel like, edibles are more female centric, and,
Mm-hmm.
smoking kind of goes either way, but it's more towards the guys. And then when you get into the concentrate realm, it's very male dominated. And you almost feel like, I remember feeling like, oh, dabbing and stuff like that, it was like something that was like, it kind of reminded me of, my tomboy days where I was like running to like keep up with the boys. And there's I think that there should be more conversations about, not only women using concentrates, but we've had some amazing female hash makers in the space as well, and
Mm-hmm.
encouraging, more creativity around that too. Um, it's very interesting, like how in this space there are certain areas that are considered like, and it's not even really said, it's almost just implied in the culture about what's a more male dominated mode of using cannabis and what is considered more feminine, like, topicals and tinctures and things like that seem to be, more geared towards women, whereas men and women can actually both really enjoy it. And like I run a compassion program, and a lot of times, a lot of my male participants will be like, "Oh, I just smoke," and I'll always throw some edibles in there too.
Right,
And
right.
and I just got a letter the other day from somebody saying, I'm really glad that you did that, because it created. The gentleman said that it created a safe space for him to be able to do some experimentation with edibles. It's something he wouldn't have chosen, but now he's not using his Ambien, and he really likes it.
Oh, wow. That's
Yeah,
great.
yeah. So there's like,
Amazing.
I just think if we could, it's about creating opportunities for people to feel safe to experiment with things.
Mm-hmm.
And I think, even though, it says some things were more male dominated, I think women are more apt to do across the board experimentation. I think men get a little bit more stuck in their heads about what what perception is of what you should and shouldn't use, not even with cannabis, just in general, really. I'm so my you know, my husband will have, oh, I just do this, and I'm like, try this. just try it. Just
Yeah.
see what happens. But when you're thinking about women in the cannabis space starting their own companies, looking for funding, what are, if you were able to impart some wisdom onto them, what would you say?
Ooh.
And I don't put
Could
you on the
you
spot.
repeat?
Sure.
Yeah, no.
Absolutely.
Could you repeat the question in a slightly different way?
Yeah, absolutely. Um, if you were, let's say you were speaking at an event encouraging women to get involved and take ownership in the industry, what's some advice that you'd give people that you've learned through your travels starting your own business that maybe people aren't aware of?
Yeah, it's such a great question. I think I would, I would definitely say something along the lines of, it doesn't matter if you don't feel ready. There is no such thing as being ready. And also, if you don't ask, you don't get. So going into an interview and kind of bullshitting your way through, it takes a lot of confidence. And I think women are, as young girls, are sort of groomed to be a little more unsure and maybe wait until they get, a signal that it's okay. And I would just say that it's never going to feel like the right time to ask for the title that you maybe don't deserve. But if you sort of blindly believe in yourself and you have a goal in mind, you can get to that goal so much faster if you just go out there and ask for it relentlessly. If you're convinced of yourself, the world will be convinced of you too. And you might have moments of the imposter syndrome, but it doesn't matter. It's no one's going to be judging you negatively for trying. I think there's an opportunity to fail, but if you fail, it's just proof that you tried.
Yeah. I think people, especially women, are afraid of failure because we haven't been pushed to just go for it. And it's like, oh no, you have to have everything in a row. You have to be prepared. You have to have a comeback for everything that they're going to ask you. Whereas our male counterparts kind of just, tunnel through there. They just go head first. And it's like, I find it very, a lot of times I look at my male colleagues and I'll be like, I need to, there's a very interesting thing about being able to like learn from them, yet be able to honor your nature of who you are, right?
Yeah.
And that's a delicate balance, but it really is. Like, I even got a coach the other year to help me learn how to do business like a man.
That's great. Wow.
Because it's a language. It's a language and a culture,
Yeah.
and but at the same time, I feel like, and it's not like, oh, we must remain feminine, but it's like if you resonate with your being as being like, on the spectrum of femininity, it's like you should be able to honor who you are, but be able to be forceful and make your dreams come true in a way that resonates for you. And I think that, especially with, the women in this industry having more conversations about this and working together and collaborating, I think it can be really inspiring, especially for people who are starting out in this work, to be able to find their strength and their voice, and to be able to really work in a way in cannabis that feeds their soul. And for some people, that's, help working with somebody else on their vision, and for some people it's creating their own vision, which it sounds like
Yeah.
you've had quite the trajectory in doing.
Definitely. Yeah, and one thing I'm thankful for is my co-founder and I actually alternate the CEO title every other year just as a symbol of equality. So I was CEO last year, he's CEO this year, I'll be CEO next year. And our roles don't change. It's more about this concept of, you know, we can flip the script, these sort of titles or rules or, ways that have been set don't really mean anything. And my real trade is design. So anything that you see of Space Coyote is something that's come from my brain onto my laptop in Illustrator, and sort of boom, it's out in the world. And, my role as being that design person and the brand visionary of Space Coyote doesn't change whether I'm the CEO title or not. Equally, he's very much deep in the supply chain, so operations, financial, legal. His role doesn't change if he's CEO or not. And I think it's just this time where we can all be doing things that are a little unusual. And if we go down the climate change route, that's going to be a whole nother hour. But I think we all need to change our behaviors as well when it comes to thinking of helping people all over the world, because when it comes to environmentalism, it's really about people. And when it comes to business, it's really about people and community. And, we need to be doing things that are a little unusual to change human behavior across the board.
Yeah, I think it's really interesting what you're doing with the CEO position, because it seems like that really evens out the power dynamic and almost takes away some of the implied how would you say it? Like, because it's like when somebody's the CEO, they're the boss, and that's that. And if you're going back and forth on it, it's like it keeps that in check, where you're a team.
Yeah.
I love that. And I think that working I think cannabis has this unique opportunity to be able to change the way we do business across the board. Like how tech back in the day, and still does, really influences other forms of industry. Like I remember being surprised working for my first software company about how casual everyone was, but still how hard everybody worked. So it was like proving that, and when I worked for a big four accounting firm, we all had to be very buttoned down. And I was like, but in tech, they're more casual and they're more efficient. They get more things done. Here we're worried about processes and button down in the hierarchy, and we're largely inefficient. And with cannabis, we can look at what does compassionate capitalism look like? What does equity look like? What does, striving for, making sure that we're not letting genetically modified plant materials into our industry? Just the different practices that we can have, holistically, that can actually leak out into other industries when they start to see how successful we are, and just like sustainable, transformational leadership and ways to do business that actually create abundance for the individuals starting the companies, but it also echoes out into the world around us.
Yeah, I completely agree.
And that's the stuff that I get really excited about, but it also is the stuff that is a constant process, because there are a lot of people with a lot of different ideas of how business should be done. And but I think that one of the things that I'm really grateful for is that there are so many lovely people working in this field that do have a lot of heart and do truly care. And we just need to make it easier for people to do business so that we can also concentrate on having that positive impact, because it's kind of hard in some ways too. It's kind of like, when you're in the airplane and they tell you to put your air mask on first before helping somebody else,
Yes.
you
Yes.
know? And there are so many people struggling, so we have a lot to do with reform to be able to help people get, an even footing or an equal chance at success when there are so many talented people out there that just, are feeling discouraged with,
Yeah.
creating businesses or succeeding in the businesses that they've been working on for so long. But looking into the future, what are some of the things that you're excited about and that I know there are some things probably that you've got in the hopper that you're not free to talk about right now, but what are some of the things that you're excited about? What are some of the hopes that you have for the future of the industry?
I'm really excited to go multi-state. That's going to happen for Space Coyote well before federal legalization happens. But I'm really looking forward to getting into New York, Florida, hopefully Arizona, these places that we've identified as really important. I think it's this challenge of deciding, how much focus do you put into your home state, in our case, California, versus then spreading yourself a bit thin and going into another state. But it's really just a matter of time until that tips over into, we've got to go. We've got to do multi-state. It's now's the time. And COVID was the reason we didn't do it last year, that we were fully geared up to go in 2020. But honestly, like, we did so well during COVID that it actually turned out to be okay. But another thing that I'm really excited for is to see how this flower does. We're about to launch this new product category, and it's the best flower that I've ever seen and ever smoked. So I'm just really excited to see what the public reception is and where it takes the company.
Yeah, when are you releasing that? Do you know?
It should be on May 21st.
Oh, nice. Congratulations.
Thank you. Fingers crossed. It's all going to go well.
Are you going to have some indicas?
Yes. Yeah. So the Sativa Preservation Society is totally separate. That's in June. This is like Space Coyote flower, and it's going to be. There's a lot of indica, which is fine. It's amazing. I shouldn't say, it's fine. No, it's good.
I have to say, I do appreciate some sativas, but I am a person who can smoke Granddaddy Purple in the middle of the day. So I have admiration of I was just gonna say I have admiration of the sativa divas, because I end up like a deer caught in the headlights, just staring at you like, right. I don't want to say anything because I'm going to say something stupid.
Right. Yeah.
But it's, that's why it's good to have a variety of flowers. And I just really like I was just thinking about the Red Congo. When we used to have jars and we would weigh to order, and I would always tell people to follow their nose. And that was like one of the most polarizing flowers that were on my menu. People either loved it or hated it. Yeah. It's like, and if they liked it, I should say if they loved it, because it really was that polarizing, they couldn't get enough of the aroma. And if it wasn't for them, the aroma did nothing for them. And I used to tell people, because they have those such unique buds on Red Congos, that big, fluffy, crispy, they're like puff balls. And people be like, but it's so beautiful. And, this person next to me is saying how much they like it. I should at least try it. And I'd always tell them, okay, buy a gram and come back and tell me what you think. Because it is so individualized.
Oh, there are some strains I want to just wear as cologne. I have a sample of Gelato 33 right now, and it smells so good. But I'm not sure. I'm like a little nervous. It's definitely pretty heavy, and I'm a little nervous to smoke it at the wrong time of day, but it smells so good.
Oh, I love that one. That is a really good one. There are flowers that, I don't see anymore that I wonder if we'll ever see again. Like some of my favorites in the past, were more on the indica side, of course, but like Ingrid and Cashmere and like just these, those old, for people who have been working with this a lot longer than me, they'd be like, that's not super old, Sarah. But for me, it was like, those were the ones that I cut my teeth
Yeah.
on. And I was like,
Yeah.
will we see these again? And that's why I think that your project, with the sativas is so important, because we do need to, reclaim and preserve a lot of the genetics. I mean,
Yeah.
I've had people, clients who have said, I used to grow back in the day, and I found these, seeds of like, Panama Red and Colombian Gold. What do you think I should do with them? And I'm like, pop them.
Yeah. Yeah.
Pop them
Yeah.
and then make some babies and share them.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's so important. And I just like, I just think that, well, your project that you're starting in June with the sativa preservation, how do people become involved with that, or what would they do if they were involved with it?
I mean, just buy the dispensary. We're selling. We're just going to be selling the flower into dispensaries.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
Yeah.
You're gonna have a lot of excited people around that, especially
Yeah.
I love that coming back, and I've been noticing that people are also getting into pressed hash again, which, like, I mean,
Yes, they are.
I
Yeah.
love
Uh-huh.
that, because every so often we would get somebody who would, vend press hash, and we would get it in the store, and especially for people who had been smoking in like the 60s, 70s, and 80s, like their eyes just start to sparkle when they see like,
Yeah.
a traditional like Lebanese hash. And that's
Yeah.
have you checked out Sitka at all?
No, I haven't.
So they're out of Washington, and Garden Society is going to be distributing them in California, and they do a pressed
Mm.
Lebanese hash, and they have. I looked on their Instagram the other day, and they have a hash cloche, which I'm fascinated by.
Interesting.
Yeah, it's this beautiful
Wow.
little like wooden base, and then it has the pin to put the pressed hash on to fire it up, and then you have a glass cloche with a little glass stopper on top, and it's really elegant and beautiful. And I
Wow.
love seeing these things. You need to check it out, and you have to tell me what you think, because I totally
Cool.
geeked out on it.
Cool.
you know, because there's like,
I'm definitely going to check it out.
yeah, because I love like all the neat new stuff that people are coming up with, but I love the fact that like people are bringing back some of the old ways to consume in, but doing it in such an elegant way. It's just so beautiful. It's like that's some of the stuff that I love with, like, I mean, I love geeking out on the medicinal side, but I also love the aesthetic of like the flowers themselves and the implements to consume. And I just remember back in the day, like everything being so kind of clunky, and
Yes.
just like seeing all the beautiful design that's coming out of this and the
Yeah.
creativity. It's so
Hmm.
inspiring.
Yeah. So much creativity. It's amazing.
Yeah. And speaking of creativity, because I know you have social media, if people wanted to follow you on social media, how would they do that?
Yeah. So you can find me at Libby Cooper on Instagram. And we've got a Space Coyote Instagram, though it is new because our previous one was disabled by Instagram. Classic story, right?
Oh, yeah.
That is, yeah, it sucks. So the new Instagram account is Space Coyote Official. And we also have a TikTok, the Space Coyote, and we've got a Facebook page, which is Space Coyote Nation. Every week we do a live stream on the Herb channel on Facebook, and tens of thousands, sometimes hundreds of thousands of people watch that, and it's so much fun. Yeah, we're definitely online. We're constantly shifting around because of those silly regulations. Everything comes down to the fact that it's not federally legal, so these platforms are constantly trying to catch you. But yeah, Space Coyote Official on Instagram. Would love the support as we're building up the account again. And you can also always check out our website, which is spacecoyote.org.
Oh, that's a beautiful website, by the way. I
Oh,
checked it
thank
out.
you.
Yeah. Yeah. Wonderful. Thank you so much for that. And for our listeners out there who want to follow Planted with Sara Pion, we're on Instagram and Twitter as Planted with Sara. Facebook, it's Planted with Sara Pion. And then our website is www.plantedwithsara.com. Of course, you can always listen to episodes on Radio Misfits Network, our parent network, and this podcast is available on Spotify, Pandora, Amazon, Google, Apple, Stitcher, anywhere that you listen to your favorite podcasts, we will be there. We are at 2 episodes a month, so please check in for our next one this month. And Libby, thank you so much for being on the show today. I really appreciate it, and it was just so nice to meet you.
It's so great to meet you.
I can't wait till all this pandemic stuff is over and we start to have some in-person events, and I hope to be able to run into you at those.
Yes, you definitely will.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And for those of you out there who are listening in today, we'll see you next time. And until then, take good care of yourselves, stay curious, and it's a little bit of a crazy world out there, so be good to one another. It takes all of us to take care of all of us. So until next time, adieu.